Hi guys, welcome to this week's office hours. I'm Robin.
I'm Raj. Today we'll be discussing how to easily debug your code. Keep in mind that we'll be talking about how to use exceptions later on in the course. So today we're just going to talk about how to, when you get an error, runtime or compile time error on your code, we'll tell you the easiest way to figure out where your error is and what you could possibly do to figure out how to correct your error.
Yeah, so hopefully there'll be a few less questions in the Piazza, like what does this error mean, or what can I do about this program I'm getting this error. You guys can kind of debug it yourself. So we're going to start off with an email generator project all the way back from topic 2. And this is very messed up. There's a few methods in here that we just have just to show for examples. But it doesn't even compile, and we're going to go through step by step and debug this program.
Okay, so to start off with, we're just going to try compile the code and see what errors we get.
Okay, so to start off, it gives us a couple syntax warnings. It expects a semicolon at line 1, character 25. So let's show the line numbers. Let's go to line 1, character 25. It expects a semicolon, so that's pretty self-explanatory.
So guys, keep in mind that every time you compile your code, if there's an error, you will like on the console, it will tell you the line number and the character number where there is an error.
So in IntelliJ, it'll be in these parentheses right here after error. Next thing, we look down and see line 3, character 28. Line 3, character 28. We have this line here. And also in IntelliJ, it won't do this in all environments, but it has all of the mistakes underlined in red. So these are all compile errors.
Yeah. Keep in mind that all the ones underlined in red are compile time errors.
So it expects a bracket. We have a bracket, but
this is the prototype for a method, not a class. In classes, you don't have parentheses. You only have the curly braces.
So it's going through this line, and then it runs into these parentheses, and it's like, no, I want a bracket. So we got to get rid of those.
And then you'll see the red line also disappears.
And now we have an error, line 21. Go to line 21. And then it expects a semicolon, so let's fix that real quick.
Okay, so far these are just being small symbol missing errors.
We'll compile it again. And it's going to have a few more errors for us. The first one, line 7, java.lang string cannot be converted to int.
Okay.
Usually what this means is there's a return value that is incorrect. It's expecting a string, but it's getting an integer or vice versa.
So it's kind of like a typecast error. So you're expecting a certain return type or a certain type, but the program is being given a completely different one, which especially when they're not compatible. Keep in mind though, but if you have types such as char and int, they are sometimes interchangeable, so Java might not pick it up, so you have to be very careful.
So in this one, we're going to go to line 7, and that has a problem with this return statement. It says that a string cannot be converted to an int, so we need to figure out why it wants an int when we're giving it this string.
Which technically makes sense in this case.
Yeah. So we're returning a string, and it wants an integer, so we look up here. Usually the answer to this error will be that it's expecting a certain return value. We're going to change this to string. And that line goes away. Next error, line 20. Java incompatible types Java lang string cannot be converted to email generator. So very similar situation. We're giving it a string and it wants an email generator.
And as string and email generator are not compatible, we'll need to change string to email generator.
All right. Line 23, cannot find symbol. The symbol is variable next, and the location is variable s of type scanner. So let's go to line 23, this line right here. String last equals s.next. it can't find what s.next is. So right now we're looking for s.next, makes it look for a variable rather than a method.
Yeah. So what is currently happening is Java is looking for the variable next in the scanner class, and it's not finding it, so it's giving you an error. But actually what it's supposed to be looking for is the method next, not the variable. So we'll have to add parentheses to show Java that we're looking for method, not a variable.
And then last error on here, line 24, incompatible types again. Int cannot be converted to a string. So now we're giving it an integer, but it wants a string. So line 24, right here, string username. Okay, so this is one example of why after you fix each error, what we just did is we went through all of the errors and we fixed each one before we recompiled the program. What you actually want to do is you want to compile your program again after each time you fix an error, because there could be errors that are caused by other errors that you've already fixed,
which shouldn't be a problem after you fix them.
So this one right here, it's saying that on line 24, make username is asking for, this is asking for a string and we're returning an int. The reason why is because this method up here, we had integer here. Now we changed it and we have string, so this won't be a problem anymore, but we haven't recompiled, so it hasn't given us our new errors. So let's recompile. All right, so like I said, that error went away, and now we have line 22, s might not have been initialized. Line 22.
That's why it's important to recompile, because this error hadn't shown up before.
Yes. So when you run or compile your program and you find you have 11 errors, that could really be one error, that could really be 50 errors. You never really know. You just have to keep fixing them and recompile and fixing them and recompile.
And also keep in mind that the errors that show up start with the most important first. It's not necessary that they'll go chronologically in terms of line numbers. So usually fix the error that is shown up first.
So this one, s may not have been initialized. S is right here. That's what we're referring to as scanner. We have scanner, and we haven't set it. We haven't initialized.
We haven't created a new. Yeah, we haven't called a new scanner constructor.
So we're gonna do that right here. All right, let's compile it again. Hopefully we're done with errors. And compilation completed successfully.
Great.
So now we're gonna try and run our program. So what we just did is we just fixed all of the compile time errors.
All errors that come before you successfully compile your code are all referred to compile time errors. Any errors that come while we try to run the program, these are all considered runtime errors. Sorry.
Okay, so it's prompting me for first name and the last name.
Oh.
Now we get our first exception, and the runtime errors are typically referred to as exceptions. And like I said, or like Raj said, we're going to be learning more about these in a later chapter. But right now, we just want to know how to use these to fix our program.
Okay, so when you get an error message like this, you have to start from the top and work your way. No, rather start from the bottom and work your way to the top. The bottommost line will give you the most will give you where your error is in the most broad sense of the word. So it tells you that the error is in the main method.
So this is the basic layout of an exception. It'll say exception in, and then it'll give you where it's located. And then it's going to give you the type of exception. You want to look at what it says right after java.lang. It's going to give you some type of exception, and then a little bit of detail about that. So like Raj said, is we're going to go to the very bottom, and this is going to give us our line numbers. So email generator, that's the class we're in right now. Java line 24, so let's go to line 24.
When you go to line 24, we find out that we call the method make username. That's probably where our error is going to be found.
So that's when we hop up to this next line up here, and it's going to give us a more
specific area of reference.
Yes. So line 7 is in make username. and that is this statement right here. And then it says a string index out of bounds exception. So we're going to define a couple of these exceptions just through these examples, but there are plenty more out there that we're not going to cover. So if you ever run into an exception that you don't recognize, just Google it. Or go to the Java API and type in the exception, and it'll give you a little bit of information on what could be wrong with your program.
But mostly the names of the exception are pretty explicit. So, if it says string index out of bounds exception, it probably means that you have a string which you're trying to fit in more characters than it has.
Yes, so right now we're trying to access somewhere in this line, we're trying to access an index of the array that doesn't exist.
Okay, so we've done that in two places. Both times we've used substrings. The first time was between 0 and 1, and that's okay because you're always going to input some string, right? So substring from 0 to 1 is the first character, so that should be okay. So the error is probably occurring the second time we call substring. And if you see there, 0 should be okay, but the length plus 1 seems fishy, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to get a substring from the 0th character to the length of the entire string plus 1. The plus 1 means that so if you have a string like Raj, for example, Raj is spelled R-A-J, that's 3 letters. So length plus 1 would be 4. So getting a substring of Raj from 0 to 4 doesn't make sense because there aren't 4 characters in the string Raj. So that's where our error is.
All right, so we're going to delete that plus 1, and then we're going to compile it again. And then we are going to run it. All right, new exception. And so we're going to read this exception in thread main. So it's in main. And then it's an arithmetic exception. And then here's a little bit of detail about that exception is divide by 0. So we'll start at the bottom like we did before, line 26. We're calling the function divide by 0. And then, so we're going to look at the next one up. It's line 11.
And you'll find that it's in the method called divide by 0.
All right, so we did just input this method so you could see different runtime exceptions. Email generator didn't have this before. But basically this is returning a value 4 divided by 0. And that's an arithmetic exception because we all know you can't divide by 0. So to fix that, we're just going to return 4 instead.
Yeah, make sure that whenever you have any arithmetic type code, you make sure that there are no divide by 0 errors. Just don't let it ever be any. Don't let any expression or any summation or whatever.
Any invalid expressions. Yes. Okay, so we just successfully ran our program and it works. So we're going to go through one more thing. So we've completely debugged this program. It works how we want it to work. But we want to also show you that you can have a working program, but it can break occasionally if you're having bad user input. So most programs, and you're going to learn this as you take more programming classes, is you want your programs to be able to adapt to what the user inputs. So if the user inputs, like right now it's asking for a first and last name, what if I mess up my first and last name? Or what if I throw in some numbers or something like that? You want your program to be able to handle that without breaking. Yeah. So what we're going to do is run this one more time, and we're going to show an example of how this program doesn't handle that. So instead of entering my first and last name, I'm just going to end the input by Command D. This just means that I don't have any input for the program to read. And so it's going to give me a no such element exception. So it basically means that it's looking for the strings that we said we were going to input, but it can't find it anywhere.
Yeah. So, it's just important to make sure that your program doesn't ever crash. And currently our program has crashed. So what you could do if you want to make your program more robust is look for all types of input and put like checks to make sure that it's not reading something weird.
Yep. And we will go more into handling exceptions and
creating your own exceptions,
yep,
etc.
And that'll be in topic 13 or 14, somewhere down the road. So we don't need to worry about that yet. We just wanted you guys to have a good idea of how to read what any errors or any red things that come down here. It's a little bit scary to look at first, but hopefully this gives you a little bit of a format to defining these exceptions and figuring out how to make your program better.
And of course, if you guys ever do get stuck, for example, you get a certain type of error and you don't really understand why it's giving it to you, please don't hesitate to post on Piazza. We are there to help.
Yeah. This is just so you guys don't have to wait for our response if you have something that maybe you could have figured out yourself if you had known this information. So like Raj said, any questions are more than welcome. So, okay. So I think that's all we have for you guys today. Thanks for watching.
Bye.